in University Park, Illinois, mostly, between there and Chicago. I mean, I had a pleasant childhood. I mean, it wasn't without certain trauma, but what childhood is without, certain trauma. On the whole, I enjoyed a very close relationship with my mother, my sister, my grandmother, lots of people in my neighborhood. I was a neighborhood kid. We had our little clubs, and I guess it would be PC to call them street organizations and stuff like that, as youth that we were, involved with. I'm going on camera, I'm gonna put some Carmex on my lips, man. I look like I just got done eating powdered donuts. It was just a confluence of a lot of different factors. One was, believe it or not, my family, my neighborhood, everybody was involved in a street organization, a particular street organization that had like some Islamic overtones in its literature, so that at least I was familiar with the term Allah, I was familiar with the term Islam, I was familiar with some of the moral code that people identify Muslims by, not eating pork and stuff like that. And then it was hip hop music. I was really into hip hop, and it's people really thought it was going to come back with like J-Elect, but hip hop, you think about Jay Electronica, who's a hip hop artist who's popular now, there was a lot more hip hop like that you could just really feel the influence of what we would call like proto-Islamic movements, the Nation of Islam, Moorish Science Temple of America, 5% Nation of Gods and Earth. So between, Wu-Tang, even Daddy Kane, even, Common at that time, there was a lot of just kind of like very subtle Islamic messaging that kind of, piqued my curiosity about Islam. And then I think, reading Malcolm X's autobiography, it just, brought everything home. And it just, and I had a classmate that was Muslim that played so many parts of the story. My wife jokes that every time I tell a story, I tell it in a different way. And I joke that my retort is that all of them are true. You know what I'm saying? Just so many different things happened at one time, Yeah, hip hop, man, is such a force. It could be a force for good, it could be a force for bad, it could be a force for political awareness, it could be a force for being apolitical. You know what I'm saying? But hip hop is definitely a force. If you look at hip hop, and hip hop being the preserve of like Black and Latino youth, culture, that culture has always sought inspiration from sources that resonated with them, but sources that were also identified as being not un-American, but like something that frustrates domestication, something that is not domesticated very easily. And I think that is probably the main reason that Islam has always been a source of inspiration for the hip hop community. Because it's something that resonates with us, obviously, so it's not alien. It couldn't, if it was completely alien, I don't think it would resonate at all. But it's not of in a way that makes it cool. Essentially cool is something that, resonates, but is not so commonplace that it doesn't warrant, attention, if you will. You know what I'm saying? There is a certain monopolization of, what is Islamically normative in our spaces, and I don't think Black people are granted enough of a say and enough influence, in what we regard as normative in terms of how we meet, what we eat, what we do, what we talk about, what issues are important to us, what issues can be given this false crown of Islamicity or Islamic legitimacy. MSA serves a lot of functions for them. And I think we would be naive to think that it's just religious. It's social. It's it's mainly social, I think. So when people seeking social space that have a similar ethnicity all congregate, naturally, it's going to be that. It's going to be kind of like their flavor. And I think those, members of MSA have to decide, look, do we really just want to have a Daisy Club? or we just really want to have a, Southeastern Asian Students Club, or do we really just want to have an Auto-American Students Club, or because if we do, there's an opportunity to create that kind of club on campus. But if we really want to have this be the Muslim Students Association, then our charter, our modes of assembly, our agenda has to be reflective of the broad diversity of the Muslim community, in a very real way, not in a patronizing, we have biryani and we also have fried chicken, but I mean in a very real way. This is a part of who we are as Muslims. Is there something larger that we're trying to achieve through assembling as Muslims here on campus? Before, I think, Muslims in this country, and this is mostly anecdotal, I'm not a sociologist or an anthropologist, but I know some good ones. I think Muslims in this country have taken one to two approaches. Either one, I'm talking about non-black Muslims. I'm not really that concerned with race. I'm not, I don't think about it. Despite the fact that, I enjoy, we're talking pre-9/11, despite the fact that I've enjoyed many of the privileges restricted to those that are socially white. I'm Indian or I'm Muslim, whatever. Most of my peers socially are white because of where I work, because of where I live, because of where I entertain, where I seek entertainment and stuff like that. But I'm not like committed to whiteness in that way. And this is what I would characterize as a racially agnostic attitude. Like, I don't really think about it. I don't know, whatever. And the other attitude is people that are a little more purposefully like, I am white. I am Caucasian, I am white, and this is just more among Arabs. Both of those approaches I think are just wrong-headed and short-sighted. Number one, this idea about kind of sneaking into the nether regions of whiteness, I think that was shattered 9/11. You're not socially white anymore, so if that is what you were kind of resting on, that's over. In terms of the racial agnosticism, I just think it's a bad strategic move, and I don't think America is a place that it's advantageous to do that, to take this kind of, I think, no, America's a place where you have to make a choice in your politics, in where you spend your money, how you spend your money. To stand with the black community in that regard is to stand with those that are historically the most disproportionately affected by the ills of American racism. And I think it's a good place for anybody that has a prophetic path to be aligned with that community. Not to say this is the only oppressed minority community in America, but it definitely is, of oppressed minority communities, it has a special relationship to the founding of America, to the discourse of civil rights in America. So I think it would be a good place for us to be strategically. For me, I'm there viscerally. It's just where I love black people, I'm a black person. But for Muslims, I think it's a good place for us to be strategically, as a community.